My name is Natalie Ramirez, though almost everyone just calls me Nora. At 33 years old, I often wondered if I had somehow missed the moment when life was supposed to blossom into something extraordinary. I worked as a paralegal in a small downtown office, buried under endless paperwork and deadlines, surviving more than thriving. My days blended into one another. Wake up early, commute through traffic, spend hours drafting motions for lawyers who barely knew my name, and return to my modest apartment where silence was my only company. Still, I wasn't bitter. I had grown up with very little, and having a roof over my head and food on the table felt like an accomplishment. But I also couldn't shake the feeling that there had to be more, something bigger, something beyond the narrow walls of my routine. The one spark of excitement in my week came on Fridays, when I stopped at Luis's corner store after work to buy a lottery ticket. It was never about greed, it was about dreaming. For just a few dollars, I could imagine a different life, a better life, at least until Saturday morning. On my birthday, I treated myself to my usual ticket, but instead of random numbers, I chose them carefully, each tied to someone I loved. Mom's birthday, Dad's lucky number, Aunt Sophia's favorite, and even my best friend Leah's. It wasn't a strategy for winning, it was simply sentimental. Those numbers felt personal, like a thread that connected me to the people who mattered most, even when I felt distant from them. I folded the ticket neatly and tucked it into my wallet, almost forgetting about it as the week carried on. Life returned to its steady rhythm of work and bills, the kind of routine that swallows up dreams and makes you forget you ever had them. That little slip of paper didn't look like anything special, and I certainly didn't expect it to be. But sometimes the most ordinary things carry the power to change everything. That Thursday night, I dragged myself home after another exhausting day. My feet ached, my eyes burned from staring at documents all day, and all I wanted was to collapse on the couch with leftovers and background TV noise. The lottery numbers were being announced, but I barely paid attention, half distracted by scrolling through my phone. And then, one by one, the numbers began to line up. The first matched, then the second. My heart gave a little jump. By the time the fifth number appeared, my hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold the ticket straight. When the sixth number lit up on the screen, I froze. My ticket matched all six. My brain refused to accept what my eyes were screaming at me. I wasn't just a winner, I was the jackpot winner. The ticket slipped from my shaking hands and fluttered onto the coffee table. My body went numb as tears filled my eyes, blurring everything around me. $52 million! The figure echoed in my mind like a drumbeat. I tried to breathe, but each breath hitched in my throat, coming out as sobs I couldn't control. For years, I had fought to stay afloat, pinching pennies, saying no to vacations, working overtime to cover rent. And now, in one surreal moment, everything was different. Joy crashed into fear, excitement tangled with disbelief. I curled up on the couch, clutching the ticket like it was a fragile lifeline. The life I had known was gone forever, and a terrifying, dazzling new one waited on the other side of morning. When the tears finally subsided, the fear began to creep in. It wasn't just the shock of winning, it was the realization of what this would mean if people found out. My family had never been gentle with money. They treated it like a game, always spending what they didn't have and expecting someone else to clean up the mess. And more often than not, that someone had been me. I could already picture it, the pleading phone calls, the guilt trips, the sudden warmth from relatives who had ignored me for years. To them, I wouldn't be Nora anymore. I would be a walking wallet. That thought chilled me more than the idea of strangers knowing me. I had dreamed about winning for years, but I never realized how heavy the secret would feel once it was real. That night, I couldn't close my eyes. Every time I tried, visions of numbers and dollar signs danced across my mind. The future spun out in wild directions: mansions, cars, vacations, freedom from debt. But then darker thoughts snuck in too. What if someone stole the ticket? What if I lost it? What if this was some cruel mistake and by morning it would all vanish? I placed the ticket inside a small jewelry box and then tucked the box beneath my pillow, as if the closeness of it would keep me safe. Still, sleep refused to come. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, my stomach twisting with a cocktail of joy and dread. By sunrise, I knew one thing for certain. My life had changed forever, but I had no idea whether it was for the better or the worse. By morning, my best friend Leah was already texting me, asking why I hadn't called her back the night before. My finger hovered over her name, Torn. She had always been loyal, the one person who never asked me for more than I could give. If there was anyone I could trust with this secret, it was her. So I called. The words spilled out in a rush, the ticket, the numbers, the jackpot. Silence followed, then a sharp intake of breath. "Nora," she whispered, "do you know what this means?" I laughed, though it came out shaky. "That I'm about to have a heart attack?" She swore, half in awe and half in disbelief, before insisting she'd come over right away. For the first time since the draw, I felt the weight ease. Sharing it made it real. Leah showed up in her pajamas, hair messy, eyes wide like a kid on Christmas morning. We sat at the kitchen table with the ticket between us like it was a sacred artifact. She reached across and grabbed my hands. "You can't tell anyone else yet," she said firmly. "Not your family, not your coworkers. No one. Promise me?" I nodded, relief flooding me. She was right. My family would descend like vultures if they knew. Leah's face softened into a grin. "This is your chance to finally live, Nora, but you've got to be smart. You've got to protect yourself." Her words wrapped around me like armor. In that moment, I made a silent vow. I would keep my secret until I had a plan, even if it meant lying to the people I loved. Later that day, I wandered into a boutique I usually avoided, my modest salary never allowing such luxuries. Silk dresses and diamond earrings glittered beneath the lights, whispering promises of a different life. For the first time, I felt the pull of temptation, the dizzying thrill of knowing I could buy anything in the store and still have millions left. But instead of indulging, I walked out empty-handed. The money wasn't in my account yet, and even if it had been, I wasn't ready to blow it. I wanted to savor the dream a little longer before reality sunk in. My restraint surprised me. Maybe I wasn't going to lose myself to the money after all. Or maybe I was just delaying the inevitable. The next morning at work, I caught myself zoning out during a meeting, a small smile tugging at my lips while everyone else stressed over deadlines. My boss snapped at me for not paying attention, and I had to bite back a laugh. If only they knew. If only they understood how little these endless legal documents mattered to me now. Still, the secret was harder to keep than I expected. My cousin Sophia called asking to borrow money for her rent, and though I said no, guilt gnawed at me. She had no idea I could write her a check without blinking. The cracks in my silence were beginning to show, and I wondered how long I could balance this double life before someone noticed. By Friday, I couldn't take the suspense anymore. I walked into the bank, clutching the ticket so tightly my knuckles were white. The teller directed me to a private office where a manager explained the process of claiming the winnings. Her calm, professional tone made me feel both reassured and overwhelmed. This was real, not a dream. As I signed the paperwork, my signature trembled across the page. They promised me a call once the funds were verified and prepared. When I stepped back out into the sunlight, I felt lighter, as though I had just stepped through a hidden door into another world. But with the excitement came fear, a nagging voice reminding me, once the money arrives, everything changes. That weekend, I wandered the city in a daze. I imagined myself in penthouses I could now afford, driving cars that turned heads, sipping coffee in faraway countries instead of the corner cafe. The possibilities stretched endlessly, each thought brighter than the last. But with every dream came a shadow. Would money make me happier, or would it just complicate everything? I had read stories of lottery winners ruined by greed, betrayal, and isolation. A quiet dread curled in my stomach. What if I became one of them?
Sunday evening, my parents insisted on our usual family dinner. As soon as I walked through the door, the familiar chaos engulfed me. My father complaining about bills, my mother fussing over the food, my cousins arguing in the living room. Nothing had changed, yet I felt completely out of place, as if I no longer belonged in their world. They didn't notice the way I kept touching my purse, where the lottery paperwork was hidden. They didn't hear the thunder of my heartbeat when my father grumbled about money. If they knew what I had, the conversation would have turned into begging, demands, and fights. Keeping the secret from them hurt, but it also felt like the only way to protect myself.
The next day, Leah dropped by again, this time with a notebook in hand. "We need a plan," she said, her eyes sharp. "First rule, don't make any big purchases right away. Second rule, don't tell anyone else. Third rule, hire a lawyer and a financial advisor before you do anything." I laughed at her seriousness, but deep down, I knew she was right. She was thinking ahead, keeping me grounded while my mind spun with fantasies. Her loyalty reassured me, but it also made me wonder, was she protecting me out of friendship, or was she making sure she had a place in my new life? At work, I caught myself being careless. When my coworker joked about us all needing million-dollar raises, I almost blurted out, "Wouldn't that be nice? I could give you one." I bit my tongue just in time, but the slip left me rattled. The secret was burning a hole in my chest. That evening, I stood in front of the mirror, rehearsing excuses for why my life might suddenly change. Promotion, savings, investment luck. Lies I'd need to tell if I wanted to keep the truth hidden. It was exhausting pretending to be the same Nora when everything inside me was shifting. 3 days later, the call finally came. The money had been deposited into a special account. $52 million. I stared at the phone after the call ended, numb and dizzy. It didn't feel real, not even when I logged into the account and saw the impossible string of numbers glowing on the screen. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in silence, staring at my laptop. I could buy a house right now. I could quit my job tomorrow. I could vanish, start over somewhere new. The possibilities were intoxicating, but also terrifying. Despite Leah's warnings, I couldn't resist forever. I walked into a high-end store and bought a handbag I had been eyeing for years. The leather was soft beneath my fingers, the price tag outrageous, and for the first time in my life, I didn't care. The cashier's smile made me feel powerful, like I had crossed into a world reserved for the wealthy. Carrying the bag home, I felt a rush of joy, but that joy was short-lived when my neighbors spotted me in the hallway. "Wow, Nora, that's fancy. Big promotion?" I forced a laugh, lying through my teeth. Already the questions had begun. Back at the office, tension grew worse. My boss piled more files onto my desk, and for the first time, I didn't swallow my frustration. "This is ridiculous," I snapped, shocking both him and myself. His eyebrows shot up, but he said nothing, just walked away. The power dynamic had shifted, not because he knew, but because I knew. I didn't need this job anymore. I didn't need any of them. For the first time in years, I realized I held the power to walk away, and it was exhilarating. That weekend, my cousin Sophia invited me to a family gathering. "We haven't seen you much lately," she said sweetly. Her tone set off alarms in my head. I knew what was coming. Sooner or later, they'd ask for help, money, favors. I forced myself to go, hoping I was wrong. But as soon as I arrived, I caught the way they looked at me. Curious, expectant, as if they could sense something had changed. The secret between us thickened the air, making it hard to breathe. By the end of the evening, my father pulled me aside. "Nora, you've been quiet lately. If something's going on, you should tell us. Family doesn't keep secrets." His words cut deep, but I forced a smile and deflected. Driving home, my chest felt heavy. The secret was becoming a wall between me and everyone I loved. I wanted to protect myself, but I also feared what would happen if they ever discovered the truth on their own. That fear followed me like a shadow into the night. The next morning, I called in sick to work.
My body wasn't ill, but my mind was drowning in anxiety. I sat on my bed, staring at the lottery paperwork, the bank statements, and the new handbag sitting on my dresser like a guilty reminder. The secret was turning into a weight I couldn't carry alone. I thought of Leah, of her steady voice and her rules. She was my anchor, the only one who knew the truth. But even she was starting to look at me differently. Was it admiration? Was it envy? I couldn't tell anymore.
That afternoon, I drove to the coast. For once, I didn't think about gas prices or tolls. I stopped at a seafood restaurant overlooking the ocean and ordered without glancing at the menu prices. The salty breeze, the sound of waves, the buttery lobster, it all tasted like freedom. But as I looked around, I noticed the stares of couples, families, and friends enjoying their day together. I was alone. My wealth didn't fill the empty chair across from me. For the first time, I wondered, would money solve my loneliness or make it worse? 2 days later, I finally did it. I walked into my boss's office, resignation letter in hand. His mouth fell open. "Are you sure?" he asked. I smiled, a calmness washing over me. Completely sure. The office buzzed with whispers after I left his door. People wanted answers. Some speculated I'd been offered a better position. Others thought I was running from something. No one suspected the truth, and their confusion made me feel both powerful and invisible. When I told Leah I quit, her eyes widened. "Already? Nora, you said you'd wait." I shrugged, pretending to be carefree. I couldn't take it anymore. I don't need that job. She sighed, closing her notebook of carefully laid out plans. "You're moving too fast. People are going to notice." Her words felt like a lecture, but beneath them was something else. Fear. Maybe for me. Maybe for herself. Unable to resist, I scheduled a tour of a luxury apartment downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble countertops, a rooftop pool. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of. The leasing agent smiled when I said I could pay in full, up front. Walking through the empty rooms, I felt like I was stepping into my new life. But when I imagined moving in, something held me back. The space was beautiful, yes, but it was cold, silent, and too perfect. Without people to share it with, it felt more like a gilded cage than a home. My family called more often, sensing something had shifted. I found myself ignoring their calls, letting messages pile up. "Are you okay? Why don't you come around anymore?" Their concern sounded innocent, but I knew where it would lead if they discovered the truth. The more distance I put between us, the more guilt gnawed at me. I wanted to believe I was protecting myself, but another part of me wondered if I was just becoming selfish. Money was already changing me, whether I admitted it or not. At a cafe one morning, a stranger struck up a conversation. He was charming, easygoing, and didn't seem to care about the frayed edges of my sweater or the nervous way I stirred my coffee. For half an hour, I forgot about the secret sitting in my bank account. But when he asked what I did for a living, my throat tightened. I lied, saying I was between jobs. His polite smile didn't waver, but I could feel the barrier my wealth had built, an invisible wall between me and every new person I met. A week later, it happened. Sophia called me, her voice sharp. "Why did I hear you quit your job? What's going on, Nora?" My heart stopped. Gossip spread faster in my family than wildfire, and I had given them their first clue. I stumbled through excuses about stress and needing a break, but her suspicion lingered. When the call ended, I felt the walls closing in. Secrets didn't stay secrets forever, especially in my family. That night, Leah confronted me. "You need to slow down," she said firmly. "If you keep making sudden moves, people are gonna connect the dots, and once they do, they won't stop until they drain you dry." Her voice cracked with desperation. I realized then how much she cared,
but also how tightly she was gripping on to my new reality. For the first time, I wondered, was Leah protecting me, or was she protecting her place in my fortune? That night, I tossed and turned just like I had before the win, except this time the fear wasn't about losing the ticket, it was about losing myself. Who was I becoming? The lies, the distance, the paranoia. It wasn't the life I had imagined when I first checked those numbers. I stared out the window as dawn crept in, the city lights fading into morning gray. I had money beyond imagination, yet I felt more trapped than ever. The real question wasn't whether I could protect my secret, but whether I could protect myself from what the secret was doing to me. One evening, my mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. She stood at my door, arms crossed, eyes sharp with suspicion. "Why don't you answer my calls anymore?" she demanded. Her gaze swept over my new handbag resting on the counter, and I quickly shoved it out of sight. I stammered excuses about being tired, about needing space, but her intuition was sharper than I gave her credit for. "Something's different about you, Nora," she said softly, "and I'm going to find out what it is." When she finally left, my heart pounded with panic. After her visit, I sat in the dark, clutching a glass of wine. The money was supposed to free me, not cage me. But every lie I told, every secret I kept added another link to the chain around my neck. I realized then that I couldn't live like this forever. Either I had to find a way to share the truth carefully, or I had to disappear completely into a life no one could touch. Neither option seemed safe. When I told Leah about my mother's visit, her face drained of color. She said, "This is exactly what I warned you about. They'll pick apart every detail until they know. You need to be careful." Her voice was stern, but there was something in her eyes. Fear, yes, but also a flicker of greed. It was subtle, but it left me unsettled. Was Leah worried for me, or for what she might lose if others found out? Despite my fears, I made my first major purchase, a sleek black car I had dreamed about for years. The moment my hands wrapped around the leather steering wheel, I felt an intoxicating surge of power. Driving through the city at night with the windows down, I finally felt untouchable. But when I parked the car outside my modest apartment, neighbors stared. Their looks burned into me. Admiration mixed with suspicion. My secret was leaking faster than I could contain it.
My father invited me to dinner, something he rarely did. I almost declined, but guilt pushed me to accept. Sitting at the table, surrounded by familiar faces, I felt like an imposter in my own life. The questions came one by one. "How's work? Why don't we see you anymore? What's new?" I smiled, lied, and dodged, but the tension was thick. My cousin Sophia's eyes lingered on me too long, as though she was piecing something together. Halfway through dinner, I slipped. "I don't have to worry about work anymore," I muttered without thinking. Forks paused midair. My father raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean by that?" I laughed it off, claiming I was just tired of office life. But I could feel the air shift. They sensed something, and like sharks to blood, they wouldn't let it go. Later that night, Leah called me furious. "You can't keep making these mistakes, Nora. One wrong word and they'll all know. Do you have any idea what they'll do once they find out?" Her anger stung, but it also revealed something else: control. Leah was acting less like a friend and more like a gatekeeper, trying to steer every choice I made. It made me wonder if I was truly free, or if I had just traded one prison for another. The next morning, Sophia sent me a message. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. She never used that tone unless it was serious. I called her back, but she didn't answer. Hours later, another message came through. "I know something, Nora. Don't make me tell the others." My blood ran cold. I stared at the screen, realizing that my carefully guarded secret was beginning to unravel. Panic drove me into my new car at midnight. I sped through empty streets, headlights cutting through the darkness, heart pounding louder than the engine. Freedom had turned into paranoia.
luxury into liability. At a red light, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were wide, my face pale. I barely recognized myself. The money wasn't just changing my life, it was changing me. By the time I returned home, I knew I couldn't keep living like this. Secrets were slipping through the cracks, family was circling, Leah was tightening her grip. I had to choose, reveal the truth on my terms, or let it explode out of my control. As I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the decision loomed over me like a storm cloud. For the first time since the win, I wished I had never bought that ticket at all. The next day, Sophia finally called. Her voice was sharp, trembling with excitement and accusation. "You've got money, don't you? I saw the car, Nora. People like us don't just buy things like that." I tried to laugh it off, but she pressed harder. "You don't have to lie to me. Just help me out with rent. I won't say anything if you do." Her words weren't a request. They were a threat. I hung up the phone, my hands shaking. The walls were closing in faster than I could push them back. Leah's warnings echoed in my mind. One slip, and they'll all know. But now, it wasn't just fear of exposure. It was blackmail. If Sophia told the family, they'd descend on me like vultures, demanding their share, eating away at everything I had. For the first time, I realized I was in real danger. When I told Leah, she paced my living room like a caged animal. "You can't give in," she snapped. "If you help her once, she'll keep coming back. They all will." Her solution was cold, but logical. Cut Sophia off completely, block her number, and move forward as though nothing happened. The ruthlessness in her tone made me shiver. Leah wasn't just protecting me, she was protecting the money too. That night, lying awake, I wondered if I was losing my grip on who I used to be. I had always helped family when I could, even if it meant stretching myself thin. Now, with millions at my fingertips, I was considering slamming the door in their faces. But wasn't that what the money was doing to me? Twisting kindness into paranoia, generosity into suspicion. The thought left a bitter taste in my mouth. The following weekend, my father announced a family barbecue. Normally, I would have found an excuse to skip, but avoiding it would only raise suspicions. So, I went. From the moment I arrived, I felt eyes on me. Sophia hovered nearby, smirking as though she held the upper hand. Conversations felt loaded, every smile laced with curiosity. It was no longer a family gathering, it was a silent interrogation.
Halfway through the evening, my aunt cornered me. "That's a beautiful car you've got," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Business must be going well, huh?" The lies stumbled out of me clumsily, something about a promotion, about saving for years, but I could tell she didn't believe me. Control was slipping from my hands, piece by piece, and there was no stopping it. As the sun set, Sophia finally cornered me. "So, are you going to help me or not?" she hissed, her voice low but urgent. "Because if you don't, everyone's going to find out." Anger flared in me. "You think you can blackmail me? You have no proof." But even as I said it, I knew the truth didn't matter. All it would take was a whisper, and my world would crumble. Later that night, I told Leah everything. Her expression hardened into steel. "If she spreads this, you'll have no peace left, Nora. You need to get ahead of it, Nora. You need to take control." Her eyes burned with determination. We either silence her or we leave before she ruins everything. The word silence hung heavy in the air, carrying a meaning I wasn't sure I wanted to acknowledge. The weight of it all pressed down until I felt like I couldn't breathe. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Every glance from family felt like suspicion. Every word from Leah sounded like a command. I was living in a cage of my own making, trapped between fear and greed, loyalty and survival, and no matter which way I turned, I was losing myself a little more. That night, as I sat alone in the dark, a thought crossed my mind that scared me more than anything else had. Maybe Leah was right. Maybe the only way to protect myself
and the money was to eliminate the threats, no matter the cost. I shook my head violently, trying to banish it. But once the thought had entered my mind, it refused to leave. And with Sophia tightening her grip, I wasn't sure how much longer I could resist. The days after the barbecue felt unbearable. Sophia texted me nonstop, each message sharper than the last. "You owe me. Don't make me tell them. I can ruin you." Her words burrowed under my skin like poison. I stopped sleeping. My nerves were raw, my thoughts tangled. Even walking down the street, I felt hunted, as if every face knew, as if every whisper was about me. The money wasn't a blessing anymore. It was a ticking bomb. Leah showed up uninvited one night, slamming the door behind her. "You can't live like this, Nora. She's destroying you. You need to decide now. Cut her off, or I'll handle it." The way she said it made my blood run cold. Handle it could mean anything, but the darkness in her eyes suggested something final. I stared at her, realizing that Leah wasn't just my confidant anymore. She was turning into something far more dangerous. The next morning, I caved. I called Sophia, offering her money to stay silent. My voice shook as I named an amount, $10,000. It felt like a bribe, a pathetic attempt at peace. But Sophia only laughed. "You've got millions, and you think 10 grand will shut me up? Try again, Nora. Or better yet, stop being greedy and share. Isn't that what family is for?" Her words twisted like knives. When I told Leah what happened, she exploded. "You don't negotiate with leeches," she shouted, pacing like a storm. "Don't you see? The more you give, the more they'll take. You're feeding the fire." I lashed back for the first time. "And what about you, Leah? You talk like you own this money too. Maybe you're no better than them." The silence that followed was sharp and dangerous. For the first time, I saw in her eyes that she wasn't just angry, she was calculating. A week later, my father called a family meeting. The words alone made my stomach twist. When I arrived, everyone was there. Siblings, cousins, even distant relatives. Their faces were masks of forced politeness, but the tension was unbearable. They circled me with questions, thinly disguised as concern. "Are you doing okay financially? That new car, did you win something? We're family, Nora. You can trust us." Each word felt like a trap. Sophia sat smugly in the corner, her eyes gleaming. By the end of the night, I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up, my voice shaking but loud. "Yes, I came into money, but it doesn't mean you get to tear me apart over it. This is my life, not yours." Gasps filled the room. Some looked shocked, others triumphant. My father's expression hardened into disappointment, and Sophia smirked like she'd won. In that moment, I realized the secret was gone. The war had officially begun. When I returned home, Leah was waiting. She didn't even look surprised when I told her. "So, it's out," she said flatly. "Good. Now you know where everyone stands, and now you can choose. Either fight them or let them eat you alive." Her words were meant to be comforting, but they chilled me instead. I had revealed the truth, and in doing so, I had lost control. My family wanted the money, Leo wanted control, and me? I just wanted peace, but it was far too late for that.
The fallout from my confession spread like wildfire. Within days, relatives I hadn't spoken to in years started calling, texting, showing up at my door. Each one had a story, a plea, or a demand. "Just a little loan. Help us with the mortgage. You owe us. We're family." But the worst blow came from my father. Sitting across from me at the kitchen table, his voice was hard, unforgiving. "We raised you. We sacrificed for you. Don't you think it's your duty to give back?" His words weren't a request, they were a command. In that moment, I realized, to him, I was no longer his daughter. I was a wallet. Leo was waiting when I broke down in tears, telling her what my father had said. She listened, but her face was unreadable. Finally, she said, This is exactly what I warned you about. They don't see you anymore, Nora. They only see the money. You either walk away from them or you lose everything, including yourself. Then she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. I can help you disappear. New identity, new city, a clean break. But you have to trust me completely. Her eyes locked on mine with frightening intensity. For a terrifying moment, I wondered if Leah wanted me or just my fortune. That night, I sat in the dark with 2 suitcases at my feet. One was packed with clothes, the other with cash. My phone buzzed endlessly. Family demanding answers, Sophia threatening, my father's words echoing in my ears. I could stay, fight, and lose myself piece by piece, or I could leave, vanish, and abandon everything I once thought mattered. When Leah's car pulled up outside, I took one last look at the life I'd known, the house, the memories, the family I thought I could trust. Then I picked up the suitcases and walked out the door. The future ahead was uncertain, maybe even dangerous, but one thing was clear. The lottery hadn't just given me millions. It had cost me my family, my trust, and maybe even my soul.